I ran and the war did wrong. Never will it ever end me. I like ice, but you run on yourself, cause it was about war. 58 counties screaming for the mind. The war's coming forth, never with the disguise. Another A-bomb for you, who really wants it. Shot medals in my vocabulary. Rolling with the punches, I'm roll beating and jumping. Dealing with the problems, I got to be coping. Making it fit, and I click just like a Lego. I'll be Casio, but you can be tackled from the FBI to the CIA. I'm clearing out the path from here to LA. I be from C-Town, kicking the roof down, ripping up the mic and way past sundown. As a world turn. As a world turn.
Welcome back, everybody. It's good to be back talking some baseball on another beautiful Monday. If you're in the Cleveland area, go outside after you watch the show. Go to the pool. It's just a really, really nice day. Nate Bope is here. Taven McCauley is here. How are we doing today, sir, on this fine Monday evening?
Not much to complain about.
All right.
Flag in the backdrop pretty much says it all. Ducks took 4 out of 6. We'll talk about that later, but
We're rocking the
good time.
we're rocking the Golden Flashes shades here today. Taven, what's been going on in life here? I know you're at a couple baseball games this week, but outside of baseball, you getting back into schooling here? Because I know I'm packing up and getting ready to go off on a big old road trip starting tomorrow.
Yeah, nothing much. High school football kicking off, so excited for that, but just getting back into the swing of things. And
What's the hype around high school football like here? You got to remember, I'm not quite from this area, so
it's pretty big here. I mean, you got Massillon, who's state champions, and then McKinley, obviously
Where do you
big
go?
in that rivalry. I go to Perry, so
how are they?
a
Okay.
little under 500. So
Okay.
we'll talk.
Hey,
say that.
playoff push this year. My old high school's got a brand new coach. Their old coach still thought it was a good idea to run the triple option, and that just doesn't work out too great for you anymore. But as I said, I got a long road trip ahead. I literally could show you all the boxes and everything I have packed, but that would bore a lot of people out there watching. So what do you say we just go ahead and dive on into some baseball?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's go ahead and start by recapping what each team did. And as you know, if you're new to the show, we work from the bottom up. So we are going to start with the single A affiliate in the Lynchburg Hellcats. And first of all, actually, before we do dive into baseball, Taven, how did you survive all the storms and everything? Did you guys get hit?
Nah, not really. It's pretty calm over here.
Yeah, I know the people up there, the farther north you go towards the lake, and especially in East Cleveland, some tornado-like weather. I know my parents who live in Mayfield had a lot of trees down and in their backyard, and thankfully nothing happened to the house and nothing happened to them, but really scary stuff. And we hope anyone out there watching this is okay. But the weather probably affected nobody more so than the Lynchburg Hellcats, because normally in minor leagues, you play 6-game series. That was shortened down to 4 for the Lynchburg Hellcats. They were going to play what was it? I think me and you were talking about this at one point. They were going to play like 5 games over the course of 48 hours or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it was a doubleheader, and then a game, and then another doubleheader. So it was over 3 days. They were going to play 5 games, which was kind of insane. But again, 3 of which got rained out at the start of the series. So you're going to have to make them up some point.
Well, they were able to get 1 doubleheader in. They got a full doubleheader in on Friday. They were able to get a single game in on Saturday, which was an absolutely bonkers game, and then a single game in on Sunday. I think they were going to try to make up another game there as well, but it ended up getting postponed or canceled. So again, 2 games canceled for the Hellcats, but that didn't stop them from winning the series, baby. They got 3 out of 4 over Fayetteville, including that bonkers game on Saturday. How about this? A 20-11 final. I'm actually going to pull up the box score for that game, but I mean, crazy game there, Taven.
Yeah, nuts. I mean, anytime you can score even over 10 runs, it's a huge game. And talk about a debut. Our boy Isaac Martinez, in his first game, he picks up the W for Lynchburg. So
yeah,
huge game for him.
Again, while I pull up that box score there, I'll tell you some of the performers here. If the website would load, I'll tell you some performers. And hey, we actually got a couple call-ups to talk about here after we talk about results. Cooper Engel looked really good. Churio continues to just do his thing, and it's probably only a matter of a time before he gets called up. But a couple other guys, such as Velasquez, that are starting to play really well for this team. Lynchburg, we'll talk about playoff races a little bit later in the show. They're a little bit farther back, but they're starting to play better and better and better baseball as the season goes on there, Taven.
Yeah, for sure. You talk about that playoff race, and this is where you're going to need to play better baseball. Currently they're sitting 6 out of first place, and that doesn't mean you're totally out of it. They are currently second to last, but 6 games behind. You get hot for a couple of series here and there, and you're looking at 2, and then got about 3 weeks left. If you can play good baseball the next 2 weeks, you're right back in this thing. So.
I'll read you the box score there from this crazy 20-11 game for you and for all the fine people out there. Final box score as Lynchburg was on the road to play Fayetteville this week. 20 runs on 17 hits and 2 errors for the Hillcats, while 11 runs on 14 hits and 2 errors for their opponent there in Fayetteville. A 9-run 7th inning is what helped them propel to that game. Without that inning, probably end up playing extras. But nonetheless, anything else to say about Lynchburg before we move on to the high A captains?
Nope. Let's head to Lake County.
Let's do that. Let's go ahead and head off to Lake County again. Lake County definitely got affected by the rain there as well, but thankfully, I believe they were able to play most of their series because they were on the road to play Dayton. And Dayton, again, didn't get hit by the storms that much, but again, we hope that everyone's still okay from that. On the road there, Captains kind of struggled a little bit. The offense wasn't really there quite as much as it has been in previous series. They were only able to take 2 of 6 from the Dragons. Now, the Dragons, not a bad baseball team there either, but the offense needed to pick up a little bit for Lake County this series.
Right. You said the Dragons are currently sitting first in that division, so not a tough task when you play them. But again, they're much like Akron. Their entire team was pretty much been gutted from even back in June. If you just take a look, Trenton Denholm, Austin Peterson, Parker Messick, all those guys were down there. Now they're all in Akron. Tyrese Turner, who we'll talk about a little later, he just got promoted. And just
Bazana
just
didn't
a ton
do
of
anything.
promotions.
Bazana did nothing.
Wow.
Nada. Bazana, I mean, I'm literally looking at the series stats right here. Ofer, 0.0 batting average, 0.3 OBP and on base percentage. There were a couple walks in there. Actually, he drew 5 walks, but no hits and struck out 7 times. So the number 1 overall pick struggled this past series, but a guy we're going to talk about a little bit later, Engel, he looked really, really good. Did have a home run, had the highest batting average on the team last season. He got promoted. We'll tell you where here in a minute, but anything else to add on Lake County? Just a really, really rough series. Again, we'll tell you who they play later in the show.
No, I mean, but even they dropped 4-6 to the first place team, but they're only 2.5 games back. So that tells you where Lake County was sitting at the beginning of the series. They were in a pretty solid spot. So again, they're still able, in my opinion, to come back and maybe even place first. Not that it really means anything because they have the first place,
still going to be playing
first half
baseball
spot locked up, but yeah,
still going to be playing playoff baseball there. Okay, shall we move on to the Akron Rubber Ducks? And Taven, it was a crazy week for the Ducks. You start out really, really hot. You win the first 3, including an epic comeback win, which both you and I were there for. You end up having to get a doubleheader in because of the whole rain situation that happened on Thursday. You got that in on Saturday, but you lost to both of them. Your guy and Davenport got rocked. I'm not remembering the other pitcher, but pitching just wasn't there during that doubleheader for the Akron Rubber Ducks, but they were able to walk it off in probably the most anticlimactic fashion possible in that Sunday game, but a win is a win nonetheless, and Akron still sits first place in the standings there in the second half. Talk about just this crazy week for the Akron Rubber Ducks.
Talk about crazy. There's no game crazier than Fridays. I mean, Davenport struggled. I mean, this was by far his worst outing. There's no doubt about it. He's going to battle back, and you're going to have those outings from time to time. But again, I fully believe he'll be back next week, but you were down 7-1 at one point. The team never gave up. The bullpen did their job, keeping them at 7 runs, and you came all the way back to win it. Thanks to Cody Huff, who had a huge game, and he drove in the go-ahead RBI. Final of that game was 8-7. So great win there for the Ducks. You talk about the anticlimactic What was it? Just a deep fly ball that Frias hit, bases
It was a
loaded, no
deep fly
outs.
ball that, like, okay, so for those of you that don't know out there, I had an internship with the Rubber Ducks this year. So I was able to kind of be there and watch pretty much every single home game that they had. And it was just, I mean, this has happened a couple times with the Ducks, just sort of a lazy fly ball that, I mean, the fielder did have to run a pretty good way to get, but just fell and they walked the bases loaded before that. Dion Frias came up, hit a little shot that probably should have been caught, and it was deep enough to score the run. So if he caught it anyway, did it really matter? Probably not. But regardless, you like to see a little bit of effort from Reading there on that. But I do want to pull up here this 8-7 game. But you can go ahead and just talk pitching for both teams. Really wasn't quite there in AA this past series.
Right. I mean, the offensive both had a day. Obviously, Denholm in his first Akron outing couldn't get the job done. Neither could Tommy Mason, the doubleheader. But even the other games, Peterson, you had to get the bats rolling, or you weren't going to win with him on the mound on Wednesday. Who was on the mound on to open the series Tuesday?
This is a good question. I will find out.
Not ringing a
because
bell.
I am not remembering either.
Was it Messick?
I will find that out. It very well could have been, because Messick also got the, I think he got the Sunday start too, so that would make sense.
Yeah, he did, and Messick had a great game too. I'm trying to pull up just his box score on what he did, but he ended up making the team of the week for the minor leagues. No, yesterday against Reading.
There you go. Congratulations. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean,
6 innings.
The pitching yesterday.
6 innings, 1 hit. No earned runs for Messick, and I'm trying to find how many strikeouts he had. 6 strikeouts. So great game for Messick, and obviously that was enough to earn him on the team of the week. All right, and it looks like well, it looks like we lost Nate. Anyway, let's head on over to Columbus, where Columbus had a flurry of moves happen to them, especially in the big league level. Logan Allen back down to just couldn't figure it out in his start. I don't think it was terrible what he did when he got recalled up to the big leagues, but obviously wasn't enough from what Carl Willis saw, Stephen Vogt. So just Logan Allen back down to Columbus. But they did recall my boy Will Brennan back up to Cleveland, replacing him with Angel Martinez for the Twins series. Will Brennan, again, a good right-handed hitter who can hit, or left-handed hitter who can hit right. He's great. That's why they needed him in that Twins series. So they brought him up, sent Angel Martinez back down to Columbus, which I think was a great move. I thought Angel started off really good in his run, but he quickly, I believe, was falling off. And if you've watched him just run the bases in the minor leagues, which he's done a good job in the majors, but it is not good at all. And then the only other moves that the Guardians made that pertained to Columbus was Anthony Gose was DFA'd, and along with Xavier Curry, who was a part of the Ducks championship team. So it sucks to see him go, but he was picked up off of waivers from Miami. So Nate, I know we lost you. Are you back?
Oh, nope, we're back.
We back?
All right, couple things me off there as well. Are you holding up okay there on your end? I'm kind of going in and out a little bit here.
Yeah, you're going in and out. I can still hear you fine.
I think we're fine now. Can you hear me okay? My mic working?
Yep. We good?
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, we apologize for any the technical errors, but hey, that's what happens when you do a show live. Sometimes things happen. You got to roll with it. We're rolling through it. You just talked about Columbus. I'll issue my thoughts on Columbus. And I mean, yeah, Columbus still playing some really, really, really good ball. They obviously were not that great in the first half. And the point that I've hammered home in literally every show we've had is they've just had this big turnaround, started to play really well. And you got a little bit nervous because there were a couple pitchers duels that they did lose, and which not too much to panic about there. They were able to rebound. They got the bats going. I believe an 11-run Saturday game for them. Big things for the Clippers. They win the series 4-2 and continue to maintain their first place standing. Did you go ahead and dive on into the moves that teams had made here?
I went through Columbus. Everybody
you went through Columbus, so we'll just kind of recap that as well. Logan Allen coming back. Will Brennan went up to Cleveland. Again, Angel Martinez is now back down in Columbus. Anthony Goes got DFA'd, and then Xavier Curry getting picked up by Miami after the Guardians DFA'd him. That's everything that you want to ran through, right? Cool.
Yep.
Well, let's go ahead and dive on into the Akron Rubber Ducks now, because Mikael Ramirez, he got assigned to Columbus this past week, moving up there from Akron, but is not going to be taking up a roster spot, got placed on the development list. Could see him playing in Columbus at some point soon. But a guy like Mikael Ramirez, who you and I are really familiar with in Akron here, Taven, sorry. Playing a pretty darn good catcher spot. He's got more of a bat than Cody Huff does, but maybe not as good defensively as Cody Huff. So kind of walk us through your thoughts on that.
I mean, once they brought Cooper Ingle up, which we'll also talk about in a matter of moments, I didn't know if we were going to get rid of a catcher. If you look back at 2021's Ducks team, they kept 3 catchers on the roster with Lavastida, Bo Naylor, and Eric Rodriguez heading in to their final month and into their playoff race. So I really didn't know if they were going to go with 3 catchers or obviously move one up, which they just did with Mikael Ramirez. I also didn't know if it was going to be Cody Huff or Mikael Ramirez. You mentioned that Mikael has a little bit of a better bat, which I would agree. I think Cody Huff's defense is way better. And I think he's progressed further more than Mikael has, which I'm shocked. It was Ramirez instead of Huff, but I'm glad that Akron just gets to keep Huff into that playoff push, and he obviously makes the pitchers just way better around him. So.
Well, I think the move there, that as well, is you don't want 2 offensive catchers. I mean, we even see that at the highest level. You have Bo Naylor, who's a little bit more of an offensive catcher, and we can argue about his bat and how it's going here all day. And then you have Austin Hedges, who's more for defense, not as good with the bat. And with Mikael Ramirez now moving up to Columbus, you get more of that bat there. And Lavastida, even though he's been hitting well, is definitely a lot more of a defensive catcher. So you're going to pair him with him as soon as Ramirez, again, gets that full extended call up to Columbus. And then you get Cooper Ingle, who is coming up from Lake County to go to Akron, and that is definitely an offensive bat. He was the best hitter in Lake County this past series, has been the best hitter in maybe not the best hitter in Lake County, but one of the best bats in Lake County for quite some time now. His defense, again, is okay, but you're going to be using Cody Huff if you got some of those defensive things. So you get Cooper Ingle coming up there, as well as Tyrese Turner. He also will not be taking up a true roster spot because in getting called up from Lake County, he, much like Ramirez, is going on the development list. What do you think of those moves for the Ducks as they continue just this amazing second half?
Love the Cooper Ingle move. I mentioned it a couple weeks, and I'm pretty sure last week on the show.
We've been raving about him for weeks, man. We both love him.
Yup. I knew he was coming up sometime soon. I mean, the dude's hitting .313, which you just don't see in catchers anymore. I mean, if your catcher can hit above 260, I mean, that's all-star numbers. So the fact that this dude's hitting over 300 is just insane. He has a little bit of power, too. He has 9 home runs with 55 RBIs on the season and 3 stolen bases. So, I mean, he's not crazy quick on the bases, but what catcher really is. But again, much like you said, the defense, I would probably say it's about as good as Ramirez was, which they both play good defensively. It's just Cody Huff's a freaking nature behind the plate. So,
say that again.
No, I really like the Cooper Ingle move. I mean, that's just a powerful bat that the Ducks need. And then much like the Ducks, you brought Cooper Ingle up, so who's going to replace him in Lake County? We have the answer.
My boy, Jacob Kozar got called up, the 2nd-round pick for the Guardians, a guy that personally I love. I loved him at NC State. Well, I haven't got the chance to talk to him, and hopefully that will change. I love what he's about. I love everything that he brings to the table. So again, you kind of replace another offensive bat, and Cozart didn't hit the best, and obviously college numbers are a little bit inflated than what you'll see in professional level as to what is considered good, but still a pretty solid offensive catcher. He can bat in runs, has some pretty solid defense. They're working with him, right? But Cozart, I don't know if he was in Lynchburg. He might have been, but Higo has
played a little bit of fall ball in Arizona, and then he went straight to Lake County.
Yep, so getting straight up to Lake County for him. He'll join the number 1 overall pick, Travis Bazana, as well as some other guys that got the call up to Lake County. A guy that I mentioned earlier in the show, Ralphie Velasquez. He's been hitting really, really well for the Hillcats. Hopefully he'll continue the same thing there for Lake County. And I don't know about you, that feels like a big boost to that Lake County team that needs to find a little bit of offense every now and again.
For sure. I mean, Velasquez, he's a young kid, so I knew he was easily going to start in Lynchburg, and I thought they might even keep him there all year coming out of high school, but he's great offensively. Obviously, he made the futures game along with Churio, so you want to just ask yourself, when is he going to be up to Lake County? Could it be at the end of this year? Could it start next year? Who knows? But yeah, that's just another great bat to add to that Lake County lineup, and him and Cozart are going to complement each other great. So
absolutely. I perfectly agree with everything that you went and just said there. Let's take a look at some other names that got the call to Lake County. Kevin Rivas got the call, Yorman Gomez, and I'll apologize for mispronunciations in advance, Wilfredo Antunez also got the call up there to Lake County, while Zach Faicia, hopefully I'm saying that name correctly. I don't have a pronunciation or anything in front of me. He was released by the Lake County Captains, which again, sad to see him go, but that's a part of business. So again, the two big moves there were Jacob Cozart, Ralphie Velasquez. What do you think of them? What do you think of the other moves for the Captains?
I mean, not really familiar with a lot of these guys. I know Rivas was just like Cozart drafted this year, so we'll get to see what he can do now. And I know Wilfredo Antunez will just stay there. I'm not even going to try that first name. Pretty sure he won Player of the Week down in Lynchburg, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Hey.
So he's a good bat that can get obviously get Lake County going. And you had to make room.
Aware of that.
You had to make room in Lynchburg for these new draftees. So what does that mean? You got to bring guys up from Lynchburg that have been there in a minute. And one of those moves was obviously releasing the catcher Zach Faicia, just to make room for Velasquez and Cozart. So solid moves all around, no complaints for Lake County.
And you mentioned making move. What am I trying to say? You mentioned making space for the draft picks to come up to Lynchburg. Caden Favors, the 6th round pick, is up there. He's a left-handed pitcher. Garrett Howe is an infielder. He's up there, an 11th round pick. A guy that I think you've mentioned on the show before, if not, have talked to me about extensively in private. Another catcher in Bennett Thompson from Oregon, 13th round pick. And then Ryan Cesarini, however you pronounce that last name, 14th round pick, an outfielder that's going to be going up to Lynchburg there as well. So a lot of the draft picks starting to find their way into Lynchburg, playing some professional ball. That's really all you can ask for. You'll love to see it.
Yeah. Not familiar with a lot of these guys except Bennett Thompson, who I really like, 13th round pick out of Oregon. I think the dude's really good defensively and he has a bat. So obviously coming out of Oregon, coming out of college, I don't know if he played 2 or 3 years there, obviously on the older side, so you don't want to really keep him in fall ball or the Arizona League, not fall ball, for the rest of this season, if you can just start him out in Lynchburg. So I like the move there.
Yeah, I really like that move there as well. And that is all the transactions we got there. Any final thoughts before we really start to dive on in? The big thing we're going to talk about today with Bazana struggling and DeLauder, I mean, yeah, he's trying to start to find his rhythm, but we've beat around that bush before. We're going to talk playoff races here. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about some playoff races. We will start from the top and go towards the bottom. So let's start with the Columbus Clippers, a team that, again, I've talked about extensively before, really, really struggled in that first half, just couldn't really find it. There were a lot of things going on where the offense didn't mesh, and obviously there were a ton of guys getting called up and down, so your roster looked drastically different pretty much every other week there for the Columbus Clippers. Now they're starting to find some consistency as guys aren't moving up and down from the big league club as much. They got some guys that probably should be in major league pitching for them currently. They got the best record, I believe, out of anyone in AAA in any division, either that's the International League, Pacific Coast League, anywhere. They continue to roll in the second half here. 26-12 is where they currently sit, 4 games ahead of the next team that matters, which happens to be Nashville. That is the Milwaukee AAA affiliate. Of course, the Storm Chasers there from Omaha, the Kansas City affiliate, already won the first half, so they'll be playing playoff baseball. But the Clippers are well on their way. If they continue to play this well, I don't really see anyone topping them.
Yeah, I mean, you already mentioned it. They have a lot of major league players that are playing for them at the moment. And it's tough to lose AAA games when you have guys, in my opinion, who are already just certified major league talents in Logan Allen and Will Brennan. And a struggling McKenzie who's kind of finding his way now.
His last start was good.
I still think he should take the surgery just to get back next year and just see what he can do.
And we hammered that home on the last show. I'm actually going to pull up numbers here to see what his numbers looked like in St. Paul.
But then you have guys like Cantillo and now Doug Nikhazy who just went up there, and he's going to help that pitching staff up just tremendously. And then Ryan Webb, who's also going to help those guys out on the pitching side. So your pitching is just phenomenal up there. And just to top that off with all the big prospect bats you have with Angel Martinez, Will Brennan bouncing back and forth, a healthy George Valera, who you now have. So Columbus is just loaded with a ton of talent from either Cleveland or just highly rated prospects from the system.
And let's go ahead and talk about what Tristan McKenzie did since we brought it up. Last pitch on August 3rd, and then, or I'd say in the previous series, this series, last pitch on August 10th, and found some consistency. I mean, 5 innings of work, 5 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 2 walks, only 3 strikeouts. I mean, it's definitely a regression from where he was in that previous start on August 3rd, where everything was working for him. He struck out 11 guys, which is exactly what you want to see. So a little bit of regression there, but as it states to Tristan McKenzie, do you still worry about him? Is he still a guy that obviously I don't think he's going to get the call back to Cleveland this year unless more injuries happen, knock on wood, and they get really, really desperate for pitching up there. They're probably going to use him. Like you said, does he take the surgery? Does he not? It's kind of the big thing with McKenzie right now. That last start, not good, not great, not terrible, kind of somewhere in between all that. It's one of those like gray area starts, right? You know, things worked well for you, things didn't work well for you. Let's just see how you play in the next ball game.
Right. I really don't think he's going to get the call back up, especially you have guys like Cantillo and Logan Allen just ahead of him. And I honestly, at this point, I take Doug Nikhazy over him. Just throw him into the water and see what it can do. I mean, McKenzie's just struggled all year, whether that's been in AAA and the major leagues. I think he just takes the surgery. You take the surgery, you get healthy, and you try to make a name for yourself if you're ready by spring training. So.
Well, let's move right on back down the board. Let's go to Double-A now and talk about the Rubber Ducks, who, much like the Clippers, have an insane lead over pretty much any team that matters. They have an 8-game lead over the Bowie Bay Sox, which are the next team that matters. They technically have a 3.5-game lead over Erie, but Erie already won the first half. They're already going to be playing playoff baseball, and the Ducks have stayed pretty darn consistent. And again, in minor leagues, as long as you win 4 out of 6, which the Ducks are able to do this past week, which the Clippers are able to do this past week, you're going to be sitting in a really, really good spot. The Ducks had to go up against a team in Reading that, again, has some pretty good players, couldn't quite put all the things together. They had some insane games, a walk-off, a crazy comeback win. The Ducks are just finding ways to win games.
Right, 100% what you said. I mean, obviously you have the 8-game lead over Bowie, which is the only team that matters, because the way that, for people listening that might not know how the minor league playoffs work, the season's essentially split in half. If you win the first half, the second half, pretty much, it doesn't matter. You're already playing playoff baseball, and that's because they split it in half because your team's just changing throughout the year, and it gets so different. So Erie already won the first half, so that 3.5-game lead doesn't matter because they're already in. And if they were to win the second half, it would go to the second place team, which would be us if they would somehow pass us at the moment. So you have that 8-game lead over Bowie, which, I mean, I like it, but I'm still not comfortable. I mean, I've been watching the Ducks since 21. They did this in 22. They had a big lead, couldn't do it. At the end of 22, the beginning of 22, and the beginning of last year, they had a big lead. And at the beginning of this year, they had a big lead. So, I mean, I believe that we can get into the playoffs, no doubt about it, but I'm not sitting comfortable yet.
Not comfortable with an 8-game lead. To your point, Bowie just got really, really hot lately. I think they won 5 straight before they ended up losing the series finale against, I'm not even going to try to guess because I don't know who they played. I thought I had an idea, but I don't. They ended up getting hot. I think they won 5 of 6 in their last series. They're 6-4 in their last 10, which is the best record over that span, the last 10 games, out of anyone within the Southwest Division in the Eastern League. So
Played Harrisburg.
Harrisburg has fallen off. I mean, that. We could dive on into talking about Harrisburg, and again, like you said, teams change. They were supposed to win that first half. They
Once
didn't.
they lost
They're
Dylan
not
Cruz,
going to
it was
win.
over for them.
Pretty much. I mean, pretty much everyone got called up. And oh, hey, by the way, speaking of the Nationals organization, I got to give a round of applause to Jose Tena. Did you see what he did?
First game, walk off. Again, I loved Jose Tena when he was in Akron. I knew he was going to be something special, but obviously there was just no room for him to keep him. So you got to love to see what he's doing down there in Washington.
And Washington is one of those teams this year that has some good moments, has some bad moments. Not going to be a team that makes playoffs, but they're a team that maybe can play spoiler down the road. And we love watching former guys in the Guardians organization go on and do big things. Jose Tena is looking like he's going to be one of those guys. Again, first game walk-off. Can't really ask for a much better MLB debut.
Right.
All right, so I think we've hammered that point home about the Ducks. Again, pretty comfortable lead. If they stay consistent, they're probably going to end up getting that playoff spot. Let's go ahead and move on down the way here to, I got to find it, what you sent here. Again, when we talk about the Lake County captains, they're already going to be playing playoff baseball, but you've mentioned the team is drastically different. They are probably way less talented, and I know they have Bazan and a couple of guys from the draft picks and what have you, guys like Kafis, and again, you mentioned the pitchers, Peterson and Messick, are all in Akron right now. It just doesn't feel like as good of a roster as it was in the first half. Again, they'll still be playing playoff baseball, 2.5 games back of Dayton, which they just lost which they just lost 4 of 6 to. So, I mean, what do you feel about Lake County right now? Again, the roster's drastically different now with all the changes that just happened today.
I mean, I think the roster got better over the last 2 days. You added Cozart, which you lost Engel, but then again you got Velasquez. So I believe that really helps a lot.
And Bazana, you just can't see him having another week like he did this past week. He's shown you too much, and I know, again, very small sample size, but in that small sample size, he's just shown you way too much.
Right. I mean, you're only 2.5 back, and losing that series to Dayton obviously wasn't ideal. But then again, it doesn't really matter because you're already playing playoff baseball. So if you win the first half, it just goes to second place. So, and really the playoffs is just about getting hot. It's 2-3 game series and then you win the championship. So, if Lake County could just get hot at the end, I really think that they can win the championship down in high A.
I mean, not much more to talk about with Lake County. Ditto to literally everything that you just said. If it's okay with you, let's just move right on to Lynchburg, which is definitely the most interesting one to talk about in terms of playoff races here because they're 6 games back of Fredericksburg. They didn't win the first half. They are 3.5 games back of the team that did win the first half, and they're just behind a lot of really, really good single A teams. Fredericksburg is good. The Boston affiliate, whose name I can't think of, I'm pretty sure it's Salem. They're really darn good as well. They're 7-3 in their last 10. The single A affiliate of the Texas Rangers are 9-1 in their last 10. You just got a lot of teams that are playing some really good baseball high up in the standings. And yes, while you're getting a lot of these new draft picks in, you just lost Velasquez and some other really, really good players there that went up to Lake County. I think it's going to be a struggle for Lynchburg to try to reach the postseason. I think it can be done, but I think it's going to be pretty hard for them to do.
No, I mean, yeah, you're 6 games back, and they haven't been playing bad baseball to any extent. I mean, they're 6-4 over the last 10. But again, like you said, just 6 games back. It's tough in the minor leagues. If you're, I would say, over 5 back, I mean, it's really tough. And the teams above you have just been playing really good baseball. But I think single A might be the hardest one just to crack, especially in the second half when your team's changing a ton with all these new draft picks and your key players, one of which being Ralphie Velasquez going up to high A. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll just continue to hammer this point home. I think it's going to be really tough for Lynchburg to try to get into playoffs. Again, you got a lot of teams that are playing some phenomenal baseball ahead of them. You heard me list off all those records. They still got some good guys. And again, who knows how these draft picks are going to work, especially when you get them up to the professional level. Some guys end up finding it really, really quickly. Other guys, it takes them a little bit. You hope that's not the case with a majority of the guys that just got brought up to Lynchburg, but again, still definitely quite a substantial possibility. That's all I got to say about the Lynchburg Hillcats. It's just going to be tough for them.
One of which you just touched on is Travis Bazana. If you want to talk about him and DeLauder, we can go right into that. But Bazana's another guy, again, very small sample size, which we've been hammering home the past two shows for what he's doing. But last series, I mean, you just couldn't find it on the offensive side of things.
Yeah, actually, before we dive into that, I mean, you mentioned a little bit on how playoffs work. I'll kind of run through everything out there for all you fine people out there watching this. And I don't know if single A works this way. I assume it does. But to my knowledge, high A, double A, and triple A all pretty much work the same. The winner of the first half in every division and the winner of the second half in any division face off in a 3-game series. Game 1 will be in the winner of the second half stadium. So let's just say, for example, Akron goes ahead and wins the second half. They'll play game 1 against Erie in Akron, and then games 2 and 3 will be in Erie. That happens. And then again, whoever wins that series, best 2 out of 3, goes on to a championship series, which I know for AAA is in a neutral site. I don't know about the rest, but if it's not, I think the same thing happens there. You get game 1 at the second half winner, and then games 2 and 3 at the first half winner. So I believe for the first half.
I believe for the championship, since it's back and forth, if it's either both of the second half winners or both of the first half, it's whoever just has the best record in general on the season.
I believe that is the case. Yes. I do know that AAA, I think, is using a neutral site this year, which I don't know if it's new. Yep. Vegas,
which they did last year too.
And the way it looks, I mean, the Storm Chasers and Clippers have a ton of playoff history, a ton. So that could very well happen there. And then I also do believe that if you win that series, then you move on to like playing the other AA affiliate. I'm not too sure about that, but anyway, that's pretty much how the playoffs work. We can dive on into a little bit of the top prospects here. I want to extend it a little bit farther than Bazana and DeLauder because, again, honestly, not too much to touch on them this year. I mean, we could ask the same questions like, are you worried about Bazana struggling? I mean, DeLauder's starting to find it. What does that mean for the organization? Let's talk about some of the other guys here. Churio, he's still playing really, really well.
Yeah, another guy that went to the Futures game with Velasquez. I think I really like his bat offensively. He's an outfielder, which at the moment we don't really have too many. So if he can just keep this going for himself, he can make a really good case down the line for a shot at Cleveland. Obviously, that's way further down the line, but again, something you got to look forward to.
Well, let's go ahead and tell you what MLB has as the top prospects right now for the Cleveland Guardians. Obviously, number 1 is going to be Chase DeLauder. So when you kind of touch on his play a little bit here, I mean, some good, some bad. He had a home run in the past series, had a lot of strikeouts. It just seems to be like, I don't know. I'm still not sold that he's found his groove and DeLauder is like back. And he is this guy that, again, I've mentioned this on the show before. There are a couple guys, especially when you watch minor league baseball, when you look out on the field that are in this organization, they make you say, whoa. And DeLauder normally is one of those guys. Besides the 3-for-4 performance in his first game back, Chase DeLauder really hasn't made me say, wow, this guy is it.
Again, not really the same way. I mean, ever since his injury, you'll see a game like I think it was Wednesday might have been 3-for-4 with like two RBIs.
That's when he had the home run. Yep.
So like you'll have a game like that, and then the next day he'll go like 0-for-4,
and it was a half-hearted swing on the home run too, might I add. He kind of like went around and just stopped about right here, and he sent it over the short porch. I mean, that thing was gone. It was like, if you know Canal Park, it was on the Tiki Terrace roof like that.
Yeah.
that thing was nuked, and he didn't even swing all the way around. There was another one, I believe it was either in the doubleheader Saturday or on Sunday. Another one of those half-hearted swings hit the same way, but didn't get enough power into it. The wind wasn't in his favor, and it died. Probably should have been a home run if the wind wasn't there, but it died. So DeLauder, I think, is just, he's got to find it. And yes, maybe getting healthy is a piece of that. Again, just not a guy that makes me go, wow, I'm sold. Not quite yet. I know that I will get there, but not quite yet.
Right. I mean, I again, same thing. Injuries is obviously what's been holding him back. He has the size. I mean, the dude just looks like a 6'6" linebacker with like
He's a
260
beast.
pounds.
He
He's
is a
insane.
beast.
And he has speed and power. So there's no doubt about it that I'll get there on him. But again, just injuries are just setting him back this year. So
Kyle Manzardo is at number 2, and obviously we've seen Kyle Manzardo at the big league level. It's weird though when you talk about Kyle Manzardo, because his power at the major league level just isn't there. Now, at the major league level, he was a doubles machine. In fact, I still think he's top 10 on the Guardians team in doubles as we currently sit right now. Could be wrong on that. That might be worth a fact check. But when you also talk about Kyle Manzardo and in AAA, the power is there. He's hitting home runs. He's still hitting doubles. He's driving guys in, and he gets to play first base, and the defense, for the most part, is there. Maybe that's the part of his game he has to work on, but you love the bat with Kyle Manzardo. It's just a really weird dichotomy with him. And look, when you talk about Kyle Manzardo, he's not the top prospect in the organization. That's Chase DeLauder, and he's a case of where you just have to get healthy with injuries. But for Manzardo, we just saw this with Jackson Holliday with the Baltimore Orioles. He got called up, was not good at all, got sent back down, worked through some things, got called back up, I believe, for that series against Cleveland. And in his first, it was the series after Cleveland. I believe
he played Cleveland. It
Did
was
he?
a Cleveland series. Yep.
Regardless, one of his first games back, cranked one right over the fence. So it can work with Manzardo too. It works with Jackson Holliday. Now we can sit here and argue all day who's a better ball player. And again, I hate to do this to all you super diehard Guardian fans out there, but Jackson Holliday's a better baseball player than Kyle Manzardo. He's got a better ceiling, but Kyle Manzardo, the same pattern can happen with him. Does he get the call is the big question.
At the moment, I don't think. I think Cleveland's roster is pretty much just set in stone, especially picking up Lane Thomas. I really don't see a spot on the roster for Manzardo. Unless Naylor goes down, knock on wood that doesn't happen, obviously. But I think Manzardo's, I think his year's really next year if he could just keep playing well in AAA.
Okay, let's move on to the number 3 prospect in the organization. That's Jason Chourio, a guy that we just talked about. We'll talk about him a little bit more here. Actually had a really darn good series against Fayetteville, and especially that game on August 10th, which, again, I believe that was the game where runs were flying everywhere, so everyone had a good day here. But, I mean, hey, 3 for 5, 3 runs, 6 total bases, had a home run, 4 RBIs, stole a base. He's hitting 279. He has a really darn good OPS. I believe it's over a .8 OPS for him. That's on base plus slugging. I mean, do you expect Chourio to sort of get the call either up to Lake County or maybe even as far as Akron this season? I think Lake County's the highest he'd go, but I think you want to start moving Chourio up the ranks here.
With about a month left, I really don't see him going anywhere. You move Velasquez up.
Right.
And the kid's 19 too, so there's absolutely no rush on Chourio. On the season in Lynchburg, he's hitting 279. Doesn't have crazy power. Not a lot of outfielders, especially in the minor league level, do. He has 5 home runs on the year, so I really don't see him going anywhere, especially with all the moves that just happened. But I do believe that he will start in Lake County next year.
So let's move on to the number 4 prospect then, which is Ralphie Velasquez. We've talked about him already here. Again, another guy that had a really good day on that August 10th offensive explosion day. Had a home run in that series as well. That was back on the doubleheader on August 9th. Where do you kind of place him as he just got the call to Lake County?
I mean, I like the call, obviously. The stats aren't especially the batting average. He's hitting 243, which is good for a catcher. Obviously not as good as Cooper Ingles' numbers.
First baseman.
Oh, they haven't used him as catcher? Sure.
He's listed as a first baseman here on
He's listed as
the
a first
website.
baseman, but when we drafted him out of high school, he was a catcher.
Oh, I know
So
just
I-
about as much as you there on that one. We'll see how Lake County use them. And hey, maybe with Engel going up, maybe they do use him as a catcher. Who knows? Cozart is obviously there as well now, so we'll see how that works out. But I mean, yeah, number 4 prospect there. We'll dive on into the 5th one here. Our first and only pitcher that we're going to end up talking about. It's Daniel Espino, and I mean, where do you sit with him?
Copy and paste to McKenzie. Literally just injuries. If he was healthy, he would have been
last year.
No, 23, no, and he didn't even pitch it.
So.
No, actually, yeah, you're right. He didn't pitch at all in 23. In 22, he only pitched a month with Akron and then went on the IR. So he hasn't pitched in about 2 years, which is insane. Same thing with McKenzie. I mean, the dude's just always hurt. If he wasn't, no doubt about it, he'd be in Cleveland right now helping out the squad. But you just got to get off the IR.
Do you just want to go ahead and go through the top 10 here? I mean, we can keep on going.
I'm cool with it. Yeah.
All right. Juan Brito. That's number 6, according to MLB.com. He had a really good series against St. Paul, is on a 3-game hit streak currently. No home runs in that span, no RBIs in that span either, but hitting 249, has around, I think it's really darn close to a .8 OPS. I think it's like 1 point off. With him and with all the middle infielders and just with all the infield talent the Guardians have in general, where do you sit with a guy like Juan Brito eventually getting a call up to the big league level? Because, I mean, he's shown some really good things in Columbus. Maybe the consistency needs to be there. Maybe you want to see him extend that 3-game hit streak to a 5 or a 7 or maybe even a 10. But
no, I feel like I touched about it before. I mean, Brito, from what I saw in Akron last year, I mean, the dude's just a freaking nature. He has good defense, and he's got insane power, especially for a middle infielder. It's just, like you said, is there a spot for him? You have Freeman, who came up the system as a shortstop. You have Schneemann up there at the moment. Angel Martinez, you have up there at the moment. Jimenez, who's obviously starting every day at short, and then you have Brian Rocchio. There's just 5 guys right now, so I don't fully agree even with him being 6 on the list. I think he's like a 9-10 type of guy, but then again, I don't understand how MLB makes these lists, because you have a lot of Lynchburg kids on here when you don't have some guys that are great in Akron, or some guys who were balling out in Akron not even make the list. So we'll
go ahead and do one more here. We're going to skip over George Valera, who's at 7, because I think it's just kind of the same story with a couple other guys we've already talked about. 249 average, 7.5 OPS. Solid. You want to see a little bit more of him before he gets the call up. Angel Martinez has already gotten the call. We could talk about him, and you talked about him earlier in the show. Joey Cantillo has gotten the call to the big league level. Obviously, he just got sent back down to Columbus, so we'll see how he performs there. Here's a guy that I do want to talk about, and like you said, they have a lot of young guys on this list. Angel Janeo, shortstop, third baseman. He can kind of play everywhere in the infield from Lake County. Had a pretty darn good series against Dayton. I mean, had some really, really good games. 3 for 4 on August 7th, 2 for 4 on August 11th. Had 3 RBIs in that series. Is hitting .318. Has over an over a .8 OPS. What do you kind of think about a guy like him?
Again, I haven't got to see much of him, just for the fact that he's been playing in low A ball. But I mean, I've heard great things about him, and I'm obviously, if you're hitting over 300, you're doing something right. At the level. Again, with the placing, I don't really agree. At 10 might be a little high with guys like Khalil Watson, Petey Halpin at 13, 14. You have Jonathan Rodriguez, who is just a machine in AAA. Couldn't really figure it out at the big league level, but guys who have cemented themselves in higher levels above. You have Kafis at 24, who I believe should be a little higher. Doug Nikhazy at 28, which I think is a little insane, putting him down there.
I agree with you there on that one.
And then Matt Wilkinson at 29, and just 30 is Ryan Webb. Those guys, I feel like, are all top 15 prospects just there. And a guy that's not even on the list, Aaron Davenport. I mean, what are we doing there?
A guy that I even like a little bit in Peterson, and you leave out Messick on there as well.
Messick's 20.
Oh, okay, never mind. I must
Yep.
have skipped over Messick, which is weird to me because I do like Peterson more. I like Davenport more. I
Yep.
like Webb more. And that's not to say I don't like Parker Messick. Obviously, you gotta love Parker Messick. He pitched some really good games for you for Akron this past series, but I don't know. They're just me personally or guys I like a little bit more than him.
Right. And I mean, if you just go down the list at 16, you have Robert Arias, and no shade to him. He's hitting 246 in the rookie ball league. So it's like what really qualifies him to be 16 over
Yeah.
guys
I mean, he's not,
like Aaron Davenport, who leads the league in ERA.
according to
So it's like,
MLB.com, he's not expected to get the call to the majors until 2029.
I get, yeah, it just makes no sense how a guy like that's 16 and a guy like Cooper Ingle who's hitting in the above 300 is at 27. So I don't really know the criteria for this or how they're really basing this off of. Maybe his roof's higher and he's not just performing at the best of his abilities right now, but I don't think anybody in rookie ball should be above the leader in ERA in any league. So
So we
that's just
both
my
have
personal thoughts.
So we both have the top 30 prospects in front of us. Take a good long look at that list, and a guy that I know what your answer is going to be to this question, so I'm going to throw in a teeny tiny little rule here. A guy that is not on this top 30 list, not named Aaron Davenport, that you like to be top 30.
Not on the list in the top 30. I would say Brian Lavastida, if we really want to count him. I know he got the call to the majors, but again,
Yeah,
he
he was with the big league club for a
doing
season
great.
or two, I think.
He was I want to say at the start of last year, they called him up for about 3 weeks. He struggled and he sent him back down. In AAA, he's hitting 259 with 8 home runs, 33 RBIs. He's hitting 260. That's I obviously it's not the MLB, but 260 in the majors, that's all-star numbers for a catcher. So I really think Lava should be up on that list. So that's just mine. I'm going to throw the question right back at you. Who do you think should be on there, not named Peterson?
Well, I'm going to kind of stick to my own rule here. And again, like you said, I'm not going to name Austin Peterson because he is a pitcher I really, really, really like. But I mean, really, I would adjust the placement a little bit. I can't really think of a guy that's not on this list. I mean, you love CJ Kayfus, and he's been a little inconsistent as of late, but you love him in Akron. Khalil Watson is on this list. Petey Halpin is on this list. Nikhazy, who's gotten the call. Ryan Webb, who's gotten the call. Both of them to Columbus. They are both on this list. Dion Frias is even on this list. But I will say someone in Akron that is a defensive gem is Yordis Valdez.
I 100% agree. I was about to throw in Milan Tolentino, just another guy, player of the month.
Absolutely.
I don't know how he's not on this list either. So it's just a lot of these guys.
And in all of these moves and everything, you expected him to get the call to Columbus, and there was a little bit in me that said, I don't know if he's going to get the call, but also then thinking about it after you said that again before the show started, I was like, oh, wait a minute, that wouldn't actually be bad. There probably isn't a spot for him in Columbus right now. Just again, you have so many middle infielders, and you're obviously not going to trade a guy that just won player of the month in Double-A baseball, which just no. But yeah, I mean, I would argue that some of those middle infield prospects, which I know the Guardians have a ton of them, so it can be hard to rank them, but guys like Valdez, who I'm just watch him. I don't like it when they play him at third base, but when they play him at second, when they play him at short, I mean, every other game, he makes just an incredible play, and one that you don't even see half of the guys at the major league level make. Now, the bat is inconsistent, but what I will say about both of those guys, in both Valdez and Tolentino, when it matters, their bats come through. And Tolentino has been one of the most clutch hitters for the Rubber Ducks this season. He has, 3 or 4 walk-offs already this year?
3.
Part of the reason he was player of the month in the Eastern League.
Right, and you said Yordis' bat. He can hit for average. The power's obviously not there, but it has hit. It has been heating up as of late. He has 3 home runs, and I want to say the last month because like that, up until July, he didn't hit 1. And now he's up to 3. But the reason I thought Tolentino was going to be gone is you bring up Tyrese Turner, and then you have Bracho, Valdez, Kayfus, Tolentino, Yordis, and Khalil Watson. So that's 7 middle infielders. The reasoning why I thought he might get the call. Another guy on the list that I think's very underrated, or that should be on the list, is Alex Friplanes. I mean, the dude's just a machine with power. obviously
The only thing I
he's a
don't
bigger
like about
dude in the field.
The only thing I don't like about Planez is, I mean, yes, he's a bigger guy. He's kind of a little bit of a slimmer version of John Kenzie Noel, and he's had some really bad games in the field, and he plays 3-outcome baseball, which is where the game is trending, but you know what it's going to be. It's either a home run, a fly out, a strikeout, or a walk. Like, it's nothing
That's
different with
you
Planez.
see the same thing, in my opinion, with John Kenzie and Jonathan Rodriguez. It's these big
Yeah.
guys just want to smash the ball. And then another guy who I don't think like his stat line is Joe Lampy in the field. You want to
You
take a
know
guess
what?
on what Lampy's
You
hitting?
know what? If you actually probably were to tell me, if you were to tell any guy that really any guy or gal that takes a deep dive into the minor league stats and looks at everything like that, like we do, I don't even think they could guess. But I did have an internship with the Ducks, so I'm going to flex my muscles a little bit here. I think he's hitting over 270.
280 is what
Wow.
Lampy's up to, which his name is nowhere put out there at all. He's a great fielder, not on the level of Connor Cox, but not many people are, who I still think that they should have kept around. But Lampy's bat, I mean, is really come around this year. He's hitting 280, 4 home runs, so not really there, but he has 15 stolen bases. So, I mean, the dude has speed, a .759 OPS. So just another really underrated guy who doesn't get talked about much with just a good, solid bat down in Akron.
Let's go to the bullpens. Name a guy that's either in the pen or that's starting, because we've talked about a lot of players here. So name some under the radar pitching prospects that you're looking out here, looking at guys in Lake County, looking at guys in Akron. List off some names.
So, I mean,
I think Akron is probably where we're going to go for most of this.
Right. I was just about to say that. My boy Lenny Torres, who's just been lights out all year. I don't really, in my opinion, he's not underrated because I'm putting him at probably one of the best, if not the best closer in the entire league, but underrated in the fact that nobody really talks about him enough. He has a 2.54 ERA with 53 strikeouts and 1.23 whip. And anytime the dude comes in, he's shutting the game down in the ninth. I like him. Tyler Thornton's another guy who I think has just been really good as of late. Coming out of the bullpen, he's improved a lot since last year. And
I like Torres. Sorry, go ahead.
And then Bradley Hanner, just another dude who's been on fire at times. He's had a couple games here and there where he hasn't been the best, but I mean, he's 8-3, which for a reliever arm to have 8 wins in the minor leagues is just something insane. He has a 3.02 ERA with 48 strikeouts, and he struck out the side on Sunday. So that's just I would say my top 3 bullpen arms to look at.
Well, I agree with you on Torres, but I'm going to mention 2 guys that you didn't really mention, and that is Alaska Abney and Magnus Ellerts, number 35 and 36. Okay, so let's talk about Abney first, because he's been in Akron the longest. He went through that period of where Alaska just, didn't. And if you've never seen Abney pitch, he throws it like a Frisbee. He's a sidearm pitcher, kind of goes down like that
I just want to jump in here real quick.
Yeah.
I just pulled up his stats. Not what I expected from when he started, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, please read them. It's only going to hammer my point home.
4-0 with a 2.08 ERA, which is nuts because the first 2 weeks he was up, I remember his ERA was in the 5s, and now it's all the way down to the 2s. And I haven't looked at stats in a minute, so that's, great pick there, obviously, for an underrated bullpen arm, but I'll throw it back to you.
And I got to tell you, when you watch him and he gets that, I mean, obviously, when you throw from a sidearm slot like this, you're going to get a lot more horizontal movement on your fastball, on your slider, and on everything. When he gets that Frisbee slider going, that literally darts from one batter's box to the other batter's box, he is unhittable. I'm telling you, unhittable.
Yeah, for sure. And then another guy you mentioned, Magnus Ellerts, who has been on fire ever since he got to Akron.
Yeah, and he has skipped over that period that Abney went through where he was getting rocked and he was walking guys and just was giving up too much and sort of adjusting to that higher level of competition. Ellerts has skipped that phase. Now, that's not to say that it hasn't come. He hasn't been in Akron for that long, but I'm sure you have his stats up. Go ahead and read what Ellerts has done so far in Akron.
Let me get to Ellerts real quick. He has a 2.36 ERA. This is just on the season, not just in Akron, and he's 6-3 on the year. I could probably find his Akron stats real quick. Yep, he's 3-0 with a 2.5 ERA.
And
So,
got the win there in relief of Peterson on Wednesday, I believe was that game. Yes.
and he's only been up for 2 weeks. So the fact that a reliever in himself is 3-0, that just means they're putting him in big positions and he's just delivering in games.
Abney is the guy I like a little bit more, and maybe Ellerts has a higher ceiling, but obviously Abney has been up for a little bit longer. Both of those guys pitched in Lake County this year. Now they're with the Ducks. They are huge bullpen arms there, especially when a guy like Andrew Walters got called up, and the bullpen just for Akron this year has been sort of off and on. They have some good days. They have some bad days. Obviously, you mentioned the guy by the name of Tyler Thornton. He has his good days. He has his bad days, a little bit more good than bad. Even Torres,
Same thing
for a little bit down the stretch here is, and then a guy that by the name of Jack Leftwich, who I know your opinions on Jack Leftwich, but he's had a lot more good days than bad as we come down the stretch. And he did close out the 8-7 comeback win. Scoreless inning.
I'll give credit where credit's due. He did close it down. In my opinion, I think it was the fact, again, no strikeouts in that. I think Reading couldn't really place the ball where they wanted to. I mean, all of those outs were deep fly balls, so I don't think they got over the ball as good as they want to, but he got out of it. I'll give him credit.
And when you have the momentum of the crowd behind you and the great fans in Akron are loud and just the momentum is in the direction of the Ducks, I mean, it's really, really hard to win there because Canal Park, I mean, draws fairly decently for a AA field.
Yeah, I mean, I was taking on-field video in the Reading dugout, and one of their pitchers literally said the exact same thing. They were like, yo, this atmosphere is like... It's crazy in here. They were saying
when they get loud, man,
it's more intense than Reading. So
when they get loud, man,
that home.
When they get loud, man, it gives you goosebumps. I mean, even sitting up there in the press box and stringing and everything like that. I mean, whoo, chills. That's kind of all I got.
One more guy I wanted to mention before, who just went on the injured list, and why I didn't even bring him up, is Trey Benton, who obviously just went on the 60-day IL. He's having surgery, so he won't be back obviously the rest of this season. But dude's,
which is unfortunate. You really love him.
Yeah, that's my guy. 4-1 with a 3.4 ERA. 30. Not a huge strikeout guy, but you throw him in there in a just a game that you really need to just get out of. He's your guy that can just do that. So I mean, I really like Trey Benton, and obviously hope he can get back to what he has been doing next year.
All right, we got a fun little thing for all of you people out there to close out the show. We were going to do this last week, but we ended up having a guest and ended up talking about some college football thing, which we're not going to dive back into. We're going to stick in minor league baseball here and just a friendly little banter off here. His guy, Aaron Davenport, versus my guy, Austin Peterson. Taven, you have the floor first.
Leader... We're going to go aside from the last outing because I haven't checked in now where he stands, but he was the ERA
first
leader.
Of all, before you begin your argument, and the reason we're doing this has just been an argument back and forth between us. Personally, he likes Davenport more. I like Peterson more. It's nothing we're going to hash out here. It's just a fun little exercise to try to do. But that being said, I will have you know I am going to win this argument. But secondly, I apologize to you for not doing this last week as we had a guest. And obviously it seems like very perfect timing for me because Davenport just came off his worst outing of the season. But yes, all valid points are made. You look at the entire body of work, not just what happened last series.
Right, and besides last series, I mean, he was leading the league in ERA. I can't even remember off the top of my mind what it was at the time, but he was leading the entire Eastern League in ERA. He's 6-4, so not a crazy record, but again, the record in my eyes doesn't really mean a whole lot.
Usually never does with pitchers. I mean, take a look at Logan Allen. He was
right,
8-4, and they still brought him down.
It's because of run support at the end of the day. And when Davenport's on the mound, I don't want to say he doesn't get any run support, but it's not the best. And he would have gotten the loss if we didn't hit out of our minds on that comeback. And that would have been a well-deserved loss. I mean, he didn't pitch good at all. Let's just face the facts. No doubt about it. He'll be back next week, back to his old dominant self. 10 strikeout a game Davenport. But you look at Zach Plesac a couple years ago. The dude's ERA was in the 2s, and I'm pretty sure he was like 1-10. He had the lowest run support in the league. So I'm not high on the win-loss at all. He has 104 strikeouts, No, it doesn't walk a lot of batters with a 1.19 whip. It doesn't really give up a ton of hits. And if he's dialed in, he's going to strike out 8+. So,
well, I really hate to do this to you. I really, truly do, my good friend Taven, but everything that you just listed off, Peterson has you beat. First minor league pitcher to 10 wins this year. First minor league pitcher to 12 wins this year. He's 12-3, 2.47 ERA in over 127 innings pitched, 123 strikeouts, has under a 1 whip, doesn't walk guys. And you look over the course of his career in 25 minor league games is 18-11 with a 3.46 and almost 250 innings pitched, 225 strikeouts, and the whip is above 1 there. But especially this year, Peterson has just been absolutely phenomenal. And the thing that you can't get from statistics that when you watch is all Peterson does is play catch. It doesn't even look like, to me, it doesn't even look like he's trying out there. He throws hard. He pitches with pace. You get to 10 seconds there. You really have to have your head on a swivel when Austin Peterson pitches, because that pitch clock is at 10 seconds and he's already throwing the next pitch. You look down to write something down on your score sheet and boom, the next pitch is already by you. That flusters hitters. It speeds them up. You look at more batter timeouts on average when Peterson pitches. And again, this is no discredit to Davenport. Peterson's got him beat in every single statistic, and I like him better.
The only thing I want to hammer home, though, is obviously no disrespect to not Davenport, Peterson, but he's faced easier talent up until July. I mean, he was playing in high A while Davenport has been doing this in double A, with some major league talent being in double A. A lot of younger 19, 20-year-old kids. Peterson can just kill pretty much down in Lake County. So you also have to look at Davenport's been doing not better numbers, but pretty similar across the board, besides a better ERA in double A than Peterson. Do you know how old Peterson is, just off the top of your head?
I actually have it right here. He's 24.
Same age as Davenport.
Okay.
So if you put Davenport in high A for, let's see, April, May, June, 3.5 months, I probably think he's going to have better numbers than Peterson.
So you mentioned that, and we've kind of talked about it here. And first of all, I just kind of figured this argument was going to come up. I knew the Lake County to Akron thing would get me. He's pitched, 7 games here in Akron, and is yet to have a game where he gives up more than 3 runs. I mean, obviously Davenport just got rocked in his last one, and he did have a game back in Lake County. I'll play devil's advocate here on myself, where Peterson did give up 7 runs, 10 hits. It was not a great outing for him, but the stuff is there. He's just an exceptionally fast pitcher. And yeah, he probably didn't pitch his best in the previous outing either, but 2 things when Peterson gets on the bump. You're going to get at least a guy that gets 5 strikeouts per game. That's aside from his past couple starts where he hasn't been striking guys out. On average, you get about 5 strikeouts from him. He's not going to be a guy that walks you. He's not really going to be a guy that gives up home runs. And for the most part, when he gets in jams, he's able to get out of it. And part of that is to the defense behind him. You have to give credit to some of the defense that the Akron Rubber Ducks do play, and even some of the defense that Lake County played while he was there. But in a guy that works with pace, and when you see guys at the major league level, and we'll go the complete opposite direction here, and Nestor Cortez, when you mess with the timing of hitters, whether that's going lightning speed or slowing things down, you get in their heads, and it makes you a better pitcher because of it.
I mean, yeah, I just took a look at Davenport. Only 2 games where he's given up more than 3 runs. So pretty much the same thing there. And then I just want to recap just his strikeouts in the month of July. He had 4 his first outing, and then he went 8, 4, 6, and then 9 his last outing. And then his first outing in August, he had a Big Ten spot, which was a career high for him. So, I mean, as of late, he's been really dialing it up in the strikeout category. Has given up a little bit of runs here and there, just pretty much the last game, because the only other bad game that Davenport has had was back in May. So he's been on fire besides the last outing against Reading. But again, you're going to have time to time that's going to happen.
2 games in June where he gave up 5 runs, June 18th and June 26th, back-to-back starts. Obviously, this last game where he gave up 7, 6 of them earned. his past couple starts just have not seemed as crisp from Davenport. And here's another thing too. When you pitch as fast as you do and you mess up timing with the hitters, they swing earlier, which they swing earlier in the count, which lessens your pitch count. And Peterson goes deeper in the games, especially if we're looking long future term. Davenport's a guy that, first of all, this point is not arguable at all. And I'm going to award this point to you right now. Davenport has got the better hair. We can sure. We can go ahead and settle that debate now.
Okay? Best hair in baseball.
Not that it even was a debate. Bryce Harper would have something to say about that, but not even that it was a debate. Just want to put it out there that Davenport does have better hair than Austin Peterson. But to me, that's really, statistically at least, the only thing that he beats him out. Peterson goes deeper into games. The pitch count is usually lesser. And it just comes with, lately Davenport's been getting himself in jams. And again, it comes with that pace. Pace means hitters are, their clock is rushed. They want to swing earlier in the count. You get flyouts and groundouts that probably wouldn't have happened if Davenport was pitching. My case is made.
Again, you said that Davenport doesn't go, long in games, and you're right. He's a 5-6 inning guy. Now, is that him, or is that maybe another thing on DeCenzo, just pulling him early? There's multiple times where I've been like, I think he can stay in longer in the game, but
true.
He only goes 5-6 innings. You're not gonna. He went actually 8 innings in Hartford game, which he had 8 strikeouts in. So that game was by far his longest game of the year, and I think he had 90. He was in 80 pitches in the 8th inning, and DeCenzo still yanked him. I would have liked to see him close it out, but again, yeah, you're 100% right. Peterson goes longer in games, but I don't know.
So when you talk about the stuff here that each of these two pitchers throw, right? Like Peterson has got some nasty stuff. His fastball is high velocity. Apologies for that. Whatever just happened there. I think my mic had cut out or something. I heard it in my headphones. The only reason I said that. Where was I going? Yeah, his fastball's got high velocity. His breaking stuff is absolutely nasty. He's got a slider and I believe a changeup that is just insanely ridiculous. That's not to say Davenport doesn't have good stuff. Golf claps. I love the stuff that Austin Peterson throws. Love it, love it, love it. Especially when you throw that at a high volume, at a high rate of speed in a quick succession. It gets hitters on their toes. They see a fastball at 95 come by their eyeballs and woo, okay, let's regroup here. Oh, that's the slider down and away. What the heck just happened?
Again, it's hard to really argue what you're saying. I feel like we're arguing literally the two best pitchers in AA baseball.
And we very well could be. That's why this is so fun. I'm having fun.
Right. And Peterson, I believe his slider is just probably unmatched. That's none to Davenport. I think Davenport can place his fastball better than Peterson can.
Yes.
And I like his curveball a lot more too.
Yep.
I think Peterson just his entire arsenal for the breaking ball is better than Davenport, but I like Davenport's fastball better. Do you know the velocity, their max velocity on that? Both of them?
I think that'd be a little hard to find off the top of my head. I think Peterson is around 95. Davenport might be a tick higher at 95.5, 96.
I want to say Davenport's like 94, 95 type of guy. I don't know if you know Peterson's.
I think Peterson is roughly around the same thing there. So, velocity on the fastball cancels out. And I do think that just from looking into some other things and going a little bit deeper dive into the stats here, I think you may have a case in that Davenport's fastball has a tiny bit more run on it. Not by much, but maybe a little bit.
Not even
and
that.
I could be wrong on that.
Right. But Davenport, if you would just watch a Davenport game, he can paint that corner with that fastball better than anybody I think can, especially the upper half of the zone. I don't think anybody can paint a fastball up and away better than Davenport for a strike.
I think we both have made our case. Maybe the people can help us decide. And come on, let's be honest. Does any of this matter? No, not really. Like Taven said, we're probably talking about the two best pitchers in minor league baseball here. They both got amazing. Well, at least the two best pitchers at the AA level, maybe even higher in the Guardians organization right now. They got some high level stuff, really good pitchers. Both of them have the swagger on the mound in different ways. Peterson, Davenport. Maybe you guys can decide in the comment section below. But other than that, okay, fun question to close out the show here. You've been to Akron many, many times. I just finished up an internship in Akron, and you know that when you go to a baseball park, you gotta eat your way around the park. Sure, the baseball is cool and all, but you gotta eat your way around the park. Best food you have ever had at a baseball game. Anywhere, not just preferably within the organization, but anywhere. Best food item.
I'm sticking with Akron. It's gonna be a Papa John. It's gonna be basic, but it's gonna be a cheese pizza, Papa John's with a blue Gatorade. It's simple, but it's great.
You can't go wrong with Papa John's. I'd say that. So I take it you're a Papa John's guy, not like a Domino's or Pizza Hut. Papa John's is where you sit, right?
Yep.
Now, this is going to be a hot take as we're diving away from the question for a little bit, but I'm a Little Caesars man. So
Yeah, it's good. Good bang for your buck.
It gets hate from a lot of people, but I got to tell you, for that price, it can't be beat. Absolutely can't be beat. When you're talking about Akron, you have to get the Screamer if you have a big group of people. What is the Screamer, you ask? Try 30, maybe not 35. I think it's $35, which, yeesh, but 21 scoops of ice cream in a batting helmet on a hot summer day. You gathering around, you bring all your friends and family to the ballpark, you sit around and you gobble that thing up. I can't think of much better. You got the teriyaki and a pineapple, which is phenomenal. You got the street corn, the Johnny Lotes, which is just, if you're a Mexican foodie, I mean, go crazy. Those things are amazing. But the best thing that I have had there, and it's because it's one of my favorite foods of all time, the chicken and waffle sandwich. That is spectacular. You have to. You have to. Have it for me. I can't be there anymore this summer. I got to go back to Nebraska. Have it for me. It is phenomenal. It's got like some jalapeno barbecue jam on it. It is just absolutely phenomenal. It is great. Always love talking about baseball. And hey, you always love talking about food. Apologies if we made you hungry out there, but it is about dinner time for us here. Taven, anything else to say before we close out the show? Good one today.
None much. Just like every week. Go Ducks, go rest of the organizations, and hopefully make the playoffs.
Well, as per usual, we will tell you what each team has coming up there in their upcoming schedule. But I also do want to say, you'll see me in a brand new set here this time next week. Moving back in, as I said at the beginning of the show, we got a 13-hour drive, which thank God we're splitting it up in two. We're going to end up doing halfway to balmy Peru. And no, not the South American country. There's a city in Illinois called Peru. That's where we're staying. So if you know where that is, traveling all the way back to Nebraska, where we have to finish up college. Nebraska, what? If you want to know more backstory, DM me. I'd be happy to share it. But that's what we're going to be doing here over the next week. Any plans for you over the week here, Taven? Besides, of course, watching some phenomenal baseball.
Right, gonna have to do it from the TV, obviously. The team is going to, I want to say Bowie. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Well, I'm actually about to tell you that.
Bowie.
Well, I'm actually about to tell you that right now here in a second.
Erie.
But any plans for the week here, sir?
Not much. High school football starting up, so starting some stuff with that. But besides that, that's it.
Football season is here, baby. Oh, so excited for it. All right. Hey, from myself, Nate Pope, and Taven McCauley, thank you as always for watching Prospects of the Land. Let's tell you what organization is going to be playing who. AAA, Columbus, we start from the top. We go to the bottom when we run through this. They got a road trip here. They got to go on the road to play the Iowa Cubs back half of this road stretch. They were just on the road in St. Paul, now on the road in Iowa, playing the Cubs. Not a very great team this year. 48-66 is where they sit. We'll see if the Clippers can stay hot. For the Akron Rubber Ducks, you had it correct, sir. The Erie Seawolves, possible playoff preview. Woo. Little bit of excitement there, but they do have to go on the road, play in Erie before they get to come back to Canal Park and play some games there. So that's where Akron is heading for a 6-game series. Really, really, really excited for that one. For the Lake County Captains, they have the Great Lakes, and they get to play them at home here. So first time coming back home for a little bit here for Lake County, looking to see if they can build some momentum against Great Lakes, who are 56-51, and we'll see if some of the new guys can perform there as well. And for the Lynchburg Hillcats, they're going to be playing down east. That's one of the teams that's ahead of them in that standings right now. It's a home series, a big series for them. And hopefully each team here can get the series win. As for the Guardians, I believe they start a series with the Cubs today, and then they're playing the Brewers later in the week there as well.
Yep.
And just tough sledding for the Guardians schedule. But Taven, anything else you're looking forward to in those series that I've just mentioned? Some really big series for each organization. I think the biggest one, Akron, obviously playing Erie,
For sure.
and then Lynchburg getting that series there at home to try to close that gap.
Lynchburg is going to be fun to watch. A new prospects that have joined the team from the draft. Same with Lake County, obviously. Your boy Kozart going up there. And then Akron is the main thing. You got that playoff preview, what it looks like, unless Bowie can go on an insane run, which hopefully not. But hopefully that's a playoff preview right there. So.
Well, that's going to do it from here. Any final words from you, sir? If not, we'll go ahead and close them out. Well, we thank you again, as always, for watching Prospects of the Land. Tune in next week here. We'll talk about more minor league baseball and other big storylines around the organization of the Cleveland Guardians. Take care, everybody. Have a good rest of your evening and have a great dinner.